For centuries, the nation of Wakanda has been protected by a warrior king, an avatar of Bast, the panther goddess, a champion with supernatural strength and senses obtained from consuming a mythical heart-shaped herb. The Black Panther isn't just your standard leader. He is the spiritual leader of Wakanda, essentially making him the supreme leader of the nation. Naturally, the lineage of this mantle extends back centuries. And as a huge fan of the character, I'm going to break down some of the fascinating people who have ever held the title of Black Panther. Before we go into our video, we have a small request. If you enjoy this kind of insider knowledge, hit that subscribe button and join the family. Every like, every comment, every new subscriber helps us keep bringing you insights you won't get anywhere else. Thank you for being so supportive. Let's get right into it. The first Black Panther was named Mosi and dates all the way back to 1 million BC. While he was not the first Wakandan of the Panther tribe to eat the heart-shaped herb, Mosi became the first to be favored by the Panther spirit Bast. The vibranium meteor absorbed a bunch of cosmic energy out in space, and when it crash-landed on Earth, it radiated said energy, which created a bunch of reality-warping portals in the process. These brought many nasty creatures such as the Brood from across the universe to Earth. These rifts attracted a prehistoric group of Avengers who wielded primal energies of the universe. The prehistoric Avengers, led by Odin, recruited Mosi to fight alongside them. Mosi was the first person after Odin to lift and wield Mjolnir, and Odin admitted he had not been impressed by such a mortal before or since. Mosi became a member of the Stone Age Avengers, helping them seal an out-of-control celestial called the Fallen in an underground chamber in what would become South Africa. Sadly, during one of their battles with a huge swarm of space bugs, Mosi was fatally wounded and died. This loss caused the prehistoric Avengers to disassemble and for the Wakandans to isolate themselves from the rest of the world. Note that all of these things about Mosi is a relatively recent development because way back in the 70s, a completely different man was said to be the first Black Panther. His name was Olumo Bashenga. Bashenga was more than a warrior. He was also a shaman of the Panther tribe. In his time, the chaos that once poured from the vibranium mound, the twisted creatures and the rifts in reality, had mostly faded, but Bashenga saw what others could not. He foresaw a storm, a great and devastating force buried deep beneath the silence. He knew it would rise again. With urgency in his spirit, Bashenga sought to unite the fractured tribes of Wakanda, pleading for unity before the coming darkness. But his vision was dismissed. His warnings were ignored. And then, just as he had foreseen, the storm came. A fury unlike anything Wakanda had ever known. With the tribes unprepared and chaos spreading, it fell to Bashenga to protect his people. Alone, he climbed the vibranium mound. For days, he endured the torment of the storm, drawing its wrath into himself, into a sword and a spear forged from the purest vibranium. Each strike of lightning, each tremor of the earth, he channeled into those sacred weapons. When his body could bear no more, Bashenga summoned his final strength and hurled the weapons skyward, unleashing the storm in a blinding surge of light and power. In that moment, a legend was born. The tribes, once divided, united under his name, and he became the first king of Wakanda. Where the weapons struck the earth, they built a city, Burning Bashenga, and from that city rose a nation, Wakanda. Bashenga later founded the Black Panther cult, and his spear eventually became a status symbol of Wakanda royalty. Bashenga is considered the father of Wakanda. Now, although Mosi might have been the first Black Panther, Bashenga is the most revered out of all of them and sits at the head of the table of the Wakanda necropolis, the place where all the Black Panthers of the past convene. But what about all those other Panthers at the table? Well, to be honest, we actually don't know all that much about all of them. But speaking of Black Panthers that we know in name only, it's worth mentioning that the major cities of Wakanda are named after notable Black Panthers of the past. Sitting at the Wakanda necropolis is the mighty Negus, and he was a man of culture. Although he was no stranger to combat, Negus was a much greater fan of drumming, and under his rule, Wakandan art flourished. Negus is quoted for saying that the spear can win the day, but it is the drum that calls us together. Out of all the Black Panthers, Negus lived the longest. Another Panther at the table is Mahamadou Fall. He was said to be the fiercest of the Black Panthers and took the throne from King Zentra the Bold, who foolishly declared war on a neighboring country, Mohanda, due to manipulation from the Hyena clan. Mahamadou was the first Black Panther from the Jubari tribe, and legends have it that his legacy is why the Jubari tribe has not been exiled from Wakanda, despite all the chaos and hostility they have caused over the centuries. Thanks to his Jubari upbringing, Mahamadou Fall is a voracious lover of women and is always referring to himself in the third person. Mahamadou Fall was among the generations of Black Panthers whose spirits T'Challa could call upon for counsel as the king of the necropolis. The next stop is Ben Hazine. Ben Hazine ruled during a time of relentless drought, a crisis unlike any in Wakandan memory. In a bold move, he turned to Wakanda's neighbors in Uganda for aid, an act nearly unheard of in the kingdom's history. Together, they forged a pact to share the rich harvest of the Alkama fields, ushering in a rare era of peace and prosperity between the two nations. But peace is fragile. The Hyena clan, still nursing an ancient grudge against the Panther tribe, began sabotaging the alliance, stealing harvests and igniting distrust. Tensions flared. Blame turned to bloodshed. War erupted. Ben Hazine led Wakanda to a decisive victory, annexing the Alkama fields entirely. He then turned his wrath on the Hyena clan, dismantling their networks and exiling them from Wakanda, seemingly for good. In his reign, Ben Hazine also reshaped tradition. He opened Dora Milaje initiations to all women from every tribe, not just the Baron. The ranks swelled, drawn by loyalty, ambition, and the hope of one day rising to become queen. Talking about queens, Nahanda, the Black Panther of the Middle Ages, and presumably the first female to take up the mantle. She was said by Bast to be the wisest of all the Panthers, and she once teamed up with Thor back in the olden days. And it is said that once, after Thor was injured in battle, his hammer Mjolnir flew towards her, and she wielded it against her enemies. Turkana, the daughter of Nagus, appeared in the Shuri solo comic, where she explains that she was only the Black Panther for 3 months in order to get the strength she needed to save her father and allow him to return to his role as king. That wraps up all the lesser-known Black Panthers that give counsel to T'Challa in the necropolis. The modern Black Panthers. T'Chanda, King T'Chanda, known as Azuri the Wise, the Black Panther, was the chieftain of Wakanda during World War II. When Nazi agent Colonel Fritz Clow crash-landed in Wakanda, Azuri saved his life. But Clow's fascination with vibranium turned to obsession. While pretending to repair his plane, Clow secretly spread lies, claiming he was a prophet of Bast. His words seduced many, and soon he had gathered a loyal cult. When King T'Chanda left for a hunting trip, Clow seized the moment, leading his followers to overthrow the capital. Forced to flee, T'Chanda vanished into the forest. Alone and hunted, starving and desperate, he consumed a mysterious heart-shaped herb and was suddenly faced by a massive, otherworldly panther. Empowered by the herb and the encounter, Chanda defeated the beast, took its pelt as armor, and returned to Wakanda. With newfound strength, he crushed Clow's rebellion and reclaimed his throne. Captain America journeyed to Wakanda during the chaos of World War II, only to find the nation guarded by a ruthless protector, King Azuri, the Black Panther. Fiercely defending his homeland, Azuri had already executed invading Nazi soldiers, placing their heads on spears as a warning. To him, both Germans and Americans were intruders. He met Rogers with cold suspicion and ordered him to leave. But after a fierce clash between the two warriors, Azuri saw Rogers' honor and chose to trust him. As a token of their newfound friendship, Steve gave his original shield to Azuri. And in exchange, the Black Panther gave Cap a small chunk of vibranium, which was later used to forge his new and most iconic shield. Azuri was succeeded by his son, T'Chaka. T'Chaka was a visionary king who championed Wakanda's leap into technological advancement. So committed was he to progress that he married one of the nation's brightest scientists. Yet, for all his forward thinking, T'Chaka still upheld Wakanda's tradition of isolation, though with a more open mind than his predecessors. His most controversial decision came when he adopted a white child who survived a plane crash, raising him as his own, even before fathering a biological heir. In a move that shocked the nation, T'Chaka eventually named the outsider head of Wakanda's feared secret police, the Hatut Zeraze, the Dogs of War. After the death of his first wife, King T'Chaka made another bold choice. He married Ramonda, an outsider from South Africa, further stirring debate among his people. Tragedy struck when Ulysses Clow, a foreign invader seeking vibranium, discovered Wakanda and assassinated T'Chaka. His young son, T'Challa, tried to avenge him, but was only able to blast off Clow's hand before being forced to retreat, igniting a lifelong vow to one day finish what he started. With T'Challa too young to rule, the crown passed to T'Chaka's younger brother, Cian. Never expecting to wear the mantle of Black Panther, Cian became a reluctant ruler, holding the throne not for glory, but until a true successor would rise. While his uncle led the nation, T'Challa traveled the world to train and study Batman style. And when he grew to adulthood, T'Challa brought those skills back home to easily take down his uncle for the throne during the ceremonial challenge, taking its rightful place as the Black Panther. However, San continued to help lead the country as one of his nephew's advisors. As the king, T'Challa was the one responsible for finally revealing Wakanda's existence to the rest of the world, and he also used his nation's wealth to help out less fortunate countries. Later, T'Challa was challenged for the throne by his frequent nemesis, N'Jadaka, aka Eric Killmonger. The two of them fought for hours on end, ultimately resulting in Killmonger nearly beating the king to near death, putting T'Challa in a coma. Hoping to save T'Challa's life, Agent Everett K. Ross stepped in, yielded the duel on T'Challa's behalf. That means he unknowingly passed the power over to Killmonger, 100% legally. However, this by no means actually made Killmonger the Black Panther, because the duel against T'Challa was just the beginning, not the end. Though, this didn't stop Killmonger from calling himself Black Panther and demanding to join the Avengers, despite him being a villain and not actually being a member of the team prior. T'Challa woke up from his coma pretty quickly, but he came out uncharacteristically moody, like he didn't even attempt to take back the throne, and gave Killmonger his full blessing to be the chieftain, which resulted in Killmonger eating the heart-shaped herb, being deemed unworthy by Bast, and falling into a coma, which made T'Challa the chieftain again by default, which means that Killmonger was never actually a Black Panther. Years later, T'Challa fell into a coma again because he was in a massive ship crash, prompting his wife, Queen Storm, to nominate his sister, Shuri, as the next stop on the grounds that Shuri's royal descent and has the same training and education as T'Challa. However, when Shuri ate the heart-shaped herb, she was rejected by Bast because she viewed the mantle Black Panther as a trophy to be won, as opposed to a sacred duty. However, when a superpowered energy vampire attacked Wakanda, Shuri took the suit and defended her country without any of the enhanced powers from the heart-shaped herb. By doing so, she earned the blessing of Bast, officially making her the Black Panther. Around this time, a shaman revived T'Challa from a coma, but with a catch. Since there can only be one Black Panther at a time, he awoke stripped of his powers. Determined not to be sidelined, T'Challa turned to alchemy, enhancing his body through science and sheer will. With his newfound strength, he helped defend Wakanda against an invasion by Dr. Doom. Later, during a brief stint filling in for Daredevil, while Matt Murdock recovered from demonic possession, T'Challa journeyed to Wakanda's city of the dead to commune with the goddess Bast. There, she chose him for a new path, anointing him not just as a warrior, but as her king of the dead. T'Challa regained all the powers of the Black Panther and more. Now he carries the strength of the heart-shaped herb and the wisdom of every Black Panther who came before him. And that's a wrap on the legendary lineage of the Black Panther. From ancient warriors to modern kings and queens, Wakanda's protectors have shaped a legacy like no other. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories from the Marvel Universe. Wakanda forever.